Something spoke through her. A true horror story, shadow-narrated. My girlfriend talks in her sleep. At first, it was one of my favorite things about her. She'd say the most absurd stuff, completely unhinged, delivered with total conviction. The sky is folding. We need to raise the ground. I'd write them down. Tell her in the morning. Tell our friends at dinner. Everyone thought it was hilarious. She never remembered any of it. Not a single dream. Not a single word. I wish I'd appreciated those days more. 'Cause what she said last night was not hilarious. And I am never, ever telling our friends about this one. Some context on how our nights go. We start out cuddling. Give it up after about 20 minutes when it gets too hot. End up on our sides, back to back, which is where we both sleep best. She goes out fast, always has, and I take longer. So I'm usually still awake while she's already deep in REM. That's how I became the unofficial archivist of her sleep talking. I'd be lying there in the dark, half reading, half listening, waiting to hear what the night would bring. I used to look forward to it. Last night started the same way. Around 11, she was asleep. I was on my side, reading, booklight clipped to my page. At some point, I heard her mumble something too low to make out. I leaned over to look at her face, sleeping soundly, eyes closed, breathing slow. I went back to my book. At some point, I fell asleep. I don't know what time it was when I woke up. What I know is that she was talking. Not mumbling. Not the low, sleepy murmur I was used to. Talking. Full volume. Like someone in the middle of a conversation. I opened my eyes. At some point during the night, we had both turned over. We were face to face now. Maybe 6 inches apart. Her eyes were open. Wide open. And they were looking directly at me. I want to try to describe those eyes because I don't think I'll ever fully get them out of my head. They were strained, like she was actively trying to open them as wide as physically possible. And they were empty, not confused, not groggy, not the eyes of someone waking up from a dream. Empty, like she was looking through me at something on the other side. These are the eyes I fell in love with. I know every version of them. Laughing, tired, annoyed, soft. I have never seen them look like that. My heart rate went from 0 to about 400 in under a second. I threw off the covers and jumped out of bed. The moment I was on my feet, she didn't move. Her body stayed completely still under the covers. But her eyes followed me. Tracked me across the room the way eyes in a painting follow you. No head movement. No body movement. Just the eyes. I told myself, I genuinely tried to tell myself that she was awake. That my booklight had been keeping her up. That what she'd said was, "Can you please turn that off?" and I'd misheard in my half-asleep state. I looked at her from across the room. She was not awake. Her breathing hadn't changed. Still slow. Still deep. That was sleep breathing. I know her sleep breathing. But her eyes were darting now. From me to the wall, to the door, to the ceiling, like something behind those eyes was cataloging the room. Taking inventory. I said, "Are you all right?" No response. But the eyes came back to me when I spoke. Locked onto mine and stayed there. Then she said, in a voice I have never heard come out of her, "Come back to bed, dearie." I need to stop on that word, dearie. In 3 years together, my girlfriend has never once called me dearie. We have pet names, Pumpkin, Baby, Cupcake, the whole embarrassing catalog. Dearie is not in there. Dearie sounds like something my grandmother would say. Dearie sounds like something that has been alive for a very long time and is doing its best to sound like a person. I was not getting back in that bed. I tried a different approach. "Are you awake, sweetie?" Nothing. The eyes moved wall, door, ceiling, and then back to me. I was about to leave. I had made the decision. I was going to walk out that door, go to the couch, and deal with whatever this was in the morning, in the daylight with a cup of coffee. And then her eyes rolled back. All the way back. Nothing but white. The booklight catching them in the dark. 2 white shapes where her eyes had been. No pupils, no iris, just white. And in that voice, that too deep, wrong voice, she said, "Of course I'm awake. Come back to bed." Her fingers tapped the comforter. Once, twice. A slow, patient rhythm. I looked at her hands. I don't know why that was the detail that got to me, but it was. The fingers were moving wrong. Not wrong like a medical episode. Wrong like something that had never had fingers before and was figuring it out in real time. One pointing straight down, the other splaying sideways. All of them moving independently, slowly, like they were being operated by something learning the controls. Those were not my girlfriend's hands. Those were her hands being used by something that didn't know how hands worked. I made a decision. I was going to leave. I was going to be calm about it. I said, I'm just going to grab some water. Be right back. Can I get you anything? Fully intending to be over that threshold and out of the house before she could respond. She responded, Take one step out of that door, she said, in that voice, calm and certain, and I will rip out your throat and shit down your neck. I want to be clear that my girlfriend is a gentle person. She does not talk like that. She has never talked like that. In 3 years, I have never heard her raise her voice in anger. Whatever was talking to me right now was not her. I did not let it see that I was scared. I don't know why that felt important, but it did some instinct that said, do not show this thing that you are afraid of it. I said, as calmly as I could manage. As interesting a proposition as that is, I think I'm going to. And while I was talking, my hand found my water bottle on the nightstand. I don't know what made me pick it up. I don't have an explanation for what I did next. I am not someone who believes in that kind of thing. I grew up in a normal house. I have no particular relationship with the supernatural. I have never thrown holy water on anything in my life. I unscrewed the lid, and I threw the entire contents of that water bottle directly onto my girlfriend's face. She screamed. The sound that came out of her was not a human sound. It was high and sharp and bird-like, the kind of frequency that vibrates in your back teeth. I am genuinely certain my neighbors heard it. I am genuinely uncertain I ever want to hear anything like it again. And then her eyes closed. Her hands went still. Her breathing stayed slow and even. She was asleep. Completely, peacefully asleep. Soaking wet. Face slack. Like nothing had happened. I stood there for a long time. Then I went to the couch. I have been on the couch for 2 hours. It is 4 in the morning. I am not going back in that room tonight. She doesn't know any of this happened. She never does. In a few hours, she'll wake up confused about why her pillow is wet and why I'm not in bed. I'll tell her everything. I'll tell her about the voice and the eyes and the fingers and what she threatened to do to my throat. And she'll laugh. She always laughs. She'll say I must have been half asleep and imagined it, or that she must have had a wild dream, or that I need to stop reading scary things before bed. She'll have an explanation. She always does. But I was awake. I know what I saw. And I know the difference between my girlfriend's voice and whatever was using it last night. I'm going to sleep on the couch for a while. Maybe forever. She'll understand. I hope she'll understand.